Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, welcome to With Jewish Youth. And we're certainly happy you're with us tonight because we have a real interesting program. We have three terrific young ladies in our audience, in our studio, I should say, and they're going to tell you a very interesting story about the role of the Jewish woman today. These are not ordinary people. These are people who have been working for Yiddishkeit for a long, long time. And they are part of the Neshei Ub'nos Chabad. Now, I don't know if many of you know this, but this weekend, please God, will be their 19th annual convention. This is an all-women's convention, a get-together of women throughout the world who come to Brooklyn, New York, to Crown Heights, to spend a weekend, and we'll be hearing a lot about them. And I've invited Mrs. Esther Goldman, who is the chairman of the Executive Council of Neshei Ub'nos Chabad, and she happens to be the chairman of the convention. With her is Mrs. Edith Bloch, who is a member of the Executive Committee of Neshei Ub'nos Chabad, and who is serving in the capacity of a co-chairman of this grandiose convention. And finally, we come to Kraindy Goldman, who is no relation to Esther Goldman, by the way, although her own mother's name is Esther Goldman, but that's an Esther and Shimon. It's a different couple than the Esther Goldman I have in the studio. And she's been the past president of the Ub'nos Chabad, the younger element of the Chabad young ladies. And she is a very active member. She is a graduate of the Beth Rivka Seminary, and she's going to be telling us about the role of the teenage young lady in the work of Chabad. So, ladies, welcome to With Jewish Youth. And in order to try to grab in as much as we can from the 29 minutes that we spend together with our audience on this show, I think we ought to get started right away and talk about the role of your function and the role that you play in the work that you are doing. So I think before we can establish anything, let us find out what is Neshei Ub'nos Chabad. I think Esther Goldman will give this one to you.
Neshei Ub'nos Chabad is a women's and girls organization. It's a worldwide organization. We are a non-profit organization, and we try to spread Yiddishkeit amongst all our Jewish sisters throughout the world.
Esther, you carry the name Neshei Ub'nos Chabad. Now, Chabad, of course, is Lubavitch. Does this mean that you only permit Lubavitcher young ladies or Lubavitcher women to join this organization, or is this open to anybody who would like to join?
This is definitely open to everyone who wants to join. In fact, we want every Jew, every Jewess who hears about us and who wants to learn anything about Yiddishkeit, they are definitely welcome to participate in any of our activities.
A touchy question. Must they be religious to join, or will you take in someone who is, at this point, maybe yet not religious?
Anyone can come, as I mentioned before. That means they do not have to be religious. We certainly hope that through our work and through our influence, through our teachings, we will have a good influence over them, and they will be able to see the light of Yiddishkeit and come back to our Torah True Judaism.
Thank you very much. Now I think we got ourselves a little bit established. I think, Edith, would you be good enough to tell us something about the goals, aims, and activities? Don't take them all, but we'll start off with the goals alone. What is the purpose? How did this come about? In other words, who organized this? It's your 19th convention. Evidently, you have to be 19 years old already. So how did this come into being, and what was the supreme purpose for organizing this group?
The Neshei Ub'nos Chabad was founded 19 years ago by the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe Shlito, and it now has active groups in many Jewish communities all over the United States, Canada, Europe, and Israel. And our purpose, I want to add, it was mentioned by Mrs. Goldman, but I want to mention that we are unique in that we are not a fundraising organization. We are dedicated solely to the promulgation of the Torah true way of life among Jewish women. We hope to enable them to maintain homes in accordance with Torah and its precepts, and to help them to transmit these Jewish values to their children. And in this case, it means once we get through to the women, it means to all future Jewish generations.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I believe that it's that way. But before I go on to finding out what means you employ in getting this message across, I think we ought to ask Kraindy, since we didn't give her an opportunity to speak. Kraindy, tell us something about the Ub'nos Chabad. Now, these are two married women, God bless them, but we'd like to hear from you, since you're not married yet, you're part of this group. What role do Ub'nos Chabad girls have in this organization?
While many people think that the purpose and fulfillment for a Jewish woman begins only after marriage, we as Ub'nos Chabad realize that we too have a definite job. When planting a tree, much labor is necessary to produce sweet fruit. To be able to lay a strong foundation for our homes, which is the woman's ultimate purpose, we must do our best to prepare. For instance, the theme of our convention, the importance of family in Jewish life. As Ub'nos children, children of our parents, we try to follow in their footsteps and continue their work. We accomplish this by learning and finding our own identity without rejecting the values of our parents. We have no generation gap. The purpose of a convention in general is to encourage and give renewed strength to those people who come together. We have had much success in the past with our conventions, and we look forward to seeing the additional chiyus, the enthusiasm with which the girls will leave this convention.
That was said very beautifully, Kraindy. Thank you very much, and I do hope some of your peers listening in will sort of be turned on. And let me ask you, Kraindy, if any of the girls of your age bracket, let's say in their teens or early 20s, if they would like to come and attend, could they come, and what would they do? How do they get themselves to become part of this weekend?
The same as was said for the women before, all girls, all Jewish girls, are cordially invited to this convention. At the end of the program, we will give you a phone number that you can call for reservations and additional information. In general, our program will begin Friday afternoon before candlelighting and will end Sunday evening after the private audience with the Lubavitcher Rebbe Shlita.
Esther, could you tell me who's going to be your main speaker, and what kind of sessions take place at this? Give us sort of a rounded out picture of the convention, beginning, let's say, with their arrival. By the way, where do these people stay?
Well, we have prepared homes. Our Lubavitcher women have graciously offered their homes to all those from out of town who are anxious to come to be with us for this weekend.
How many do you expect?
We don't know. We probably expect about 500 people, maybe more, maybe less, but probably more. And we hope in Mirz Hashem that everyone will come. Now, as far as our speaker is concerned, our keynote address will be given by Dr. Chaim Tzvi Romberg, who is a prominent physician and communal leader from Cleveland, Ohio. Our first session starts Mirz Hashem Friday, which is Lag BaOmer. The women congregate in shul. They come for mincha and ma'ariv, and they all see the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Everyone davens together. And Shabbos morning, again, everybody congregates in shul. Shabbos afternoon, we have a Shalas Sudus, and we have very prominent speakers at that time too. We have Rabbi Yitzchak Gansberg, who is from Eretz Yisrael. We will have a speech by Mrs. Sybil Gitlin, Shabbos, a regal guest in our home. And we will also have greetings from Mrs. Mushai Love, who arrived recently from Russia.
Okay, now, Edith, you wanted to add something. Go ahead. Let's go.
I wanted to express that Mrs. Goldman mentioned from out of town, but we also mean we are in Crown Heights, which is the focal central headquarters of Lubavitch Chabad movement. But we welcome Jewish women from all areas of New York, Flatbush, Borough Park, Long Island, Westchester, from anywhere and everywhere. We welcome you with open arms. You come, we will place you, and we are anxious to have you, and we will help you in any way that we can.
I would like to put in 2 footnotes here, if I may. First of all, I think we ought to tell the people we shouldn't be so modest. Before the program, you told me you already have over 1,000 delegates registered because we left out all the city people. We're only talking about the 500 out-of-town people who are coming in for this special weekend. And the second thing is I want to say that I take special pride in learning today that you have Dr. Rumberg, because Dr. Rumberg was one of my featured interviewees, one of my featured guests on With Jewish Youth. And let me tell you, we've had some tremendous feedback on this show after he was on. So I want to wish you Godspeed because you were very wise in choosing this very outstanding individual. Okay, let's go on with a little bit more about the work of Neshei Ub'nos Chabad. I would like to know, Edith, we spoke about activities, and Esther mentioned the fact about getting through with this message of Yiddishkeit to bring the Jewish daughter, the Jewish woman back into the fold of Judaism with the proper inspiration. Would you be good enough to tell me 1 or 2 of the means that are employed in doing this work? How do you get your message out to the public?
Well, Rabbi Hecht, one of our manifold activities which we run is a speakers bureau. We have a speakers bureau of Neshei Ub'nos Chabad, where many sisterhoods, congregations of any type, Reform, Conservative, Hadassah, Mizrahi, and they will invite us out to them to speak. And we go out and we speak to them, and they want to know, what does Lubavitch stand for? They want to know, how do we attract our youth? And what are the goals of Jewish women? And how does a Jewish woman really live a true Torah life, a life based on true Torah traditions and Torah values? And so we go out into the various areas all over, wherever we are asked. We do not charge for this. We go out willingly and gladly, glad to have a chance to present the real thing, the Torah true way of life. And if I may, since this is our 19th annual convention, of the theme of which our Ub'nos member mentioned is the importance of the family in Jewish life, I would like to mention an incident in which I personally took part. We were invited to a very, very large Reform congregation in Comac, Long Island. There were 750 women present, and we got up to speak, and they wanted to know, who are we? What are we? What do we represent? What do we stand for? And we got up and we told them the history of Chabad, of course in a minute detail, and what we stand for, what Lubavitch is, and what the role of the Jewish woman is in Torah life today. And some of the women there were sitting flabbergasted. And when there is a question and answer session, the questions that came on, they never heard this. They said, what's going on? Some of them asked about Jewish Taharat HaMishpacha, which is another facet of our activities, the Jewish family life, and it was explained to them, of course, and we had a carryover. And afterwards, they were so impressed. They said, where can we learn more? And so I gave them material, and I gave them a phone number, and they followed up, and they attended convention, and they're looking forward to coming to this one. And one young woman was so impressed. She stood there, and she came over to me, and she says, Rebbe Bloch, you know, you are telling the real thing. I have listened to speakers after speakers who are coming and telling us what is the solution to the problem today in our youth. How do we get our people home? How do we get them off drugs and everything? You have the answer because you are presenting the real thing. And to make a long story short, she is now one of the most wonderful Jewish pious, observant women. Her husband is a professional. Her children we have a school for college youth, both for boys and for girls, and a whole Jewish family has been turned on.
Good luck to you. Keep up your great work. Esther, would you be good enough, that's only part the Speakers Bureau, would you be good enough to give us perhaps a few more of the highlights of the activities in which Neshei Ub'nos Chabad participate? Perhaps they would be of interest to our audience, and perhaps some would want to, in fact, share in some of these projects.
Well, another one of our very important activities are the learning classes, the learning groups, which we have weekly. Normally at our meetings, at our general meetings, which we have once in 2 weeks, we have a speaker that discusses different topics. Sometimes it's the Sedra, sometimes it's a different important factor. And aside from that, we have actual learning classes once a week. Now, in most groups out of town do have these learning classes. Before a Yontif, we learn the dinim of the specific Yontif. Before Pesach, before Purim, whatever the Yontif is, we learn the dinim of the Yontif. We have Hasidus classes and many other very interesting subjects. Another very important aspect of our Neshei Chabad, very important project, the Brides and Grooms Committee. Now, the Brides and Grooms in actuality, it started as part of the Taharas HaMishpacha group, but then we found that it was more important to come out unto the general audience of New York at this particular point. We hope that we will be able to go further out into different cities, but at this point we try to get the brides and grooms from who are not religious to try to teach them the basics of Yiddishkeit, the actual dinim of Taharas HaMishpacha, to tell them exactly what it is to live a Jewish life. These brides and grooms really have never heard anything about it. It's completely new. We had different lectures throughout the year. We had very prominent rabbis giving different lectures on this subject, and Baruch Hashem, we see a lot of fulfillment. Another very, very important activity of Neshei Ub'nos Chabad is what we call an encounter with Chabad. Now, this encounter is primarily for girls. Girls come throughout the world, actually, through different parts of the world. We have a complete program for them. In fact, most of the time it's college youth who we attract at this particular program. We have professors, we have rabbis, we have very, very important lecturers who discuss and give specific seminars. Again, these girls come to our homes, come to Lubavitch women's homes, who so warmly open their homes to these guests, and just through the wonderful hospitality and warmth which these girls seem to feel, many of them are just somehow turned on. They can't believe that this is really true, that here you just open up your home to any strange individual. You don't know who they are. They just come from any part of the world, and here you're giving them such a warm feeling. They just feel there has to be some truth in this. Aside from the fact, of course, as I mentioned, we have the very interesting lectures, and many girls have come into the fold of Yiddishkeit, have been brought back to Yiddishkeit through the teachings and the learnings and everything that they have seen through these encounter with Chabad.
Esther, thank you so much. Before we go any further, Kraindy, I think I would like for you to tell us, as one of the younger element, how do you view this convention in contrast to perhaps any other girls' or women's conventions that are held throughout the year? And have you ever seen any real accomplishments from this convention, or is it like most other conventions where they adapt resolutions before the convention starts, and all they do at the convention is have a good social time, and then they all go home, and that's the end of the story? Or have you seen some real down-to-earth accomplishments from these kind of conventions that are held in the Ub'nos Chabad?
Firstly, we are a group that are called Ub'nos Chabad. Chabad meaning that we are under the guidance of the Rebbe Shlita. This automatically means that we are a very active group, that there is no such thing as resolutions before a convention, and that which is said is definitely carried out to the utmost. As far as fruitful results from conventions, I remember just last winter we had a midwinter convention in Pittsburgh. Mrs. Kazin, a Chabad representative in Cleveland, was there with a group of women and girls. One of the girls that were there was someone that she had met just the day before the convention on one of the college campuses. Somehow, she has her way. She convinced this girl to come along with her to Pittsburgh. The girl sat through the entire weekend without really having any background about Yiddishkeit. She really didn't know what hit her. And again, she was convinced to come on to New York. As a matter of fact, when she got to New York, she stayed with our family for a few days until she was able to settle in an apartment. She went through many hardships, but by the time the summer came, she was ready to go on to St. Paul, Minnesota, where there is a Girls' Summer Institute, a special program for learning for girls of such background. Today, Yittebela has been through Beis Rivka, Mechon Chana, and now she is a Kala and getting married in Mirz Hashem in June.
Mazel Tov and Mechem Badia. This was a nice story, and I think it certainly proves the point. I have a very interesting question that I would like to throw to you folks here today. Everything that you spoke about hinges upon religion. Is there anything that you do for the physical part of Jewish women? Are you concerned about anything else? Are you only worried about the fact that they should observe the laws and so on? Or is there another aspect to your activities, which I think concerns our radio audience? It's a great thing to be like a missionary group, to go out and try to catch the souls. But the soul is in a body, and I was only concerned if you're also worried about the welfare of the bodies of some of these people with whom you come in contact.
Well, as you know, the Ub'nos Chabad is under the leadership of the Lubavitcher Rebbe Shlita, and following our Rebbe's directions and ways, we worry not only about the soul, or not only about the spiritual, but Lubavitch also worries about the physical aspect. It always has, and it always will. And one of our most really wonderful activities is what we call our Biker Cholim Committee. We have a wonderful group of women who actually go out and visit sick and visit the lonely in the hospitals, visit and ask anybody. They go into the homes of people who are sick, who are lonely, who are alone, and they go and they help them both physically and spiritually in all their endeavors. There are women who go to various hospitals at specific time, so we feel that in any way we possibly can. And I might mention that our Ub'nos Chabad, our younger girls, are our young girls are trained from childhood to help another person. Avas Yisrael, love of Israel, love for a fellow Jew is one of the most important aspects of our Jewish life.
Thank you so much, Edith. Esther, I see you have something that you would also like to say along these lines. Do you have another aspect in which, or project, which proves your concern about the body as much, at least, as the soul?
Well, yes, amongst other things, we have a very important project which is called the Rebbetzin Nechamadina Gemilas Chesed. Now, this was formed after the demise of the former Lubavitcher Rebbetzin, the former Rebbetzin of the Friedricher Lubavitcher Rabbi. And we call this Gemilas Chesed, the Rebbetzin Nechamadina Gemilas Chesed. And people who need money for whatever reason it may be have been able to borrow money from this Gemilas Chesed, and we try to have them pay it back in as easy terms as possible. Now, as you all know, a Gemilas Chesed is a very, very great mitzvah to give tzedakah to, because people, not only do very poor people have the use of a Gemilas Chesed, but also people who do have some money, if they need something special before a yontif or whatever in the world it might be. If they want to borrow money, the Gemilas Chesed, the Rebbe's Nechamadina Gemilas Chesed, is there for them to use.
That sounds great. Kraindy, you have to match them. If they have projects that are doing for the people, let me hear what you're doing for yours.
The activities of Ub'nos are not geared only for those girls who are members of Ub'nos Chabad. We put a very definite stress on our fellow Jews. We emphasize projects that will encourage our girls to help Jewish youth in Talmud Torahs, down the block, and even cross-country. For example, during the past Hanukkah, the girls distributed many Hanukkah kits all over New York. They encouraged many people to light Hanukkah candles. On Purim, many people that had been contacted on Hanukkah were called again. Giving Shalach Manos, one of the special commandments for Purim, kept our girls very busy during the holiday. For the coming months of summer, a large majority of our girls are going to be counselors in day camps all over the United States. They'll be in St. Paul, Minnesota, Seattle, Washington, all over California, and in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We hope that through our work will be a source of nachas, of pride, to our parents, our teachers, and most of all, to the Rebbe Shlita.
Well, I'm sure with girls like you, you will be a source. You're already, thank God, a source of nachas. Even to me, you're a source of nachas tonight because of the wonderful job that you have done. But, you know, I would like to say that, first of all, your girls will also be in Camp Amunah. Don't forget that. And that's right here in New York. Okay. In fact, in all the 3 camps Amunah. All right. Now, I think we're I don't know if you know this, but we have already filled our time. And we are almost at the end. I think it's very important that we tell our audience all the instructions that they should know. I'm sure there are many people who would like to participate and know where they could come. Maybe they can't come for Shabbos, at least they can come for the Sunday session. Maybe at least they can come to see the Lubavitcher Rebbe when he comes out to speak to the women. But at least let's tell them something, give them specifics, whom to call, where to call, when to call, and so on. I think since you are the chairman, Esther Goldman, please do it for us.
All right. For reservations, we would like you to call or to write. In fact, it's too late to write, but best to call Mrs. Sarah Gutnick at 467-8977. 467-8977. Or you can call my number, that's Mrs. Goldman, at 493-5015. Excuse me, 493-5015. If you want to come for Shabbos, please let us know immediately so that we can prepare a wonderful home for you. Or if you feel you can come for the Sunday session, please let us know. I just want to mention that as far as our program is concerned, Rabbi Weinberg will be giving over a special letter that the Rebbe Shlita has written for Neshei Ub'nos Chabad at our Sunday session.
Ladies, thank you so much, and Kraindy, thank you so much for being with us tonight. It was certainly a pleasure having you with us on With Jewish Youth. To you, ladies and gentlemen, until tomorrow night at the same time, may God bless you all.